Hi everyone, this is Hilmar from Gelato here. Thanks so much to IOSG for inviting us to the DeFi Summit to speak about our project. I'm very excited to be here. It's a rainy afternoon in Berlin, and actually today we have Friday the 23rd, so I already pre-recorded this. And wherever you're watching this, I hope you find it interesting, you learn something. If you have any other questions after this talk, feel free to reach out to us via Twitter. It's @Gelato Network. We are happy to help you get to understand more about what we're currently building. Without further ado, I will jump right in our presentation. So let me just make myself smaller and get out of the way for the interesting stuff. Like so. All right, cool. Yeah, so this talk is about automation and bots on Ethereum, and actually not many people know that much about it or actually understand why automation is actually not that easy on networks like Ethereum. And I will make a bold statement at the beginning and say that automation on Ethereum actually does not exist when we go after the usual definition and what we are kind of used to what automation is. And normally automation is described as the use of machinery and computers to do certain jobs that otherwise humans would manually or normally do themselves. And if we think about automation in kind of like the software world, where usually most things are already automated, we think about these internet servers that run these daemon processes in the background that kind of are in this infinite loop state. And for example, if you go to Gmail, it automatically always kind of refreshes and fetches new emails as soon as they come. And you basically don't have to do anything yourself anymore, right? And these processes, they kind of run forever. But in smart contract land, these software programs that are smart contracts, they're actually not running forever. They are bound by the block's gas limit or by a certain gas limit, and they will stop executing some logic after a block where a transaction is sent to them is mined. So actually smart contracts, they don't run, they just stand there, do nothing, and only when someone sends the transactions to them, then something happens. So automation on Ethereum, so the automatic execution of smart contracts on Ethereum, basically means that someone is sending a transaction on your behalf, which could be a bot, which could be another human being, and so you don't have to do it yourself. And of course, when we go after the definition, it should be a bot that kind of does it, so humans don't have to manually do it themselves. And even though automation kind of doesn't exist by definition on Ethereum, still most of DeFi today relies on them. And if you look at I'm getting a notification here. If you look at the protocols you'll see in this slide, for example, Maker, Aave, Synthetics, Compound, they, for example, rely on the notion of these bots that constantly monitor the collateralization ratio of certain debt positions within their protocols. And as soon as these positions reach a liquidation price, they will have to send a transaction to liquidate this debt position, because if no one will send this transaction, these positions will never get liquidated, and the protocol piles up on bad debt and it kind of blows up, right? So you need these bots that do these tasks on behalf of these protocols. And at the same time, you actually see a new class of automated dApps appearing that are currently offering not like low-level smart contract protocols, but kind of like aggregation UIs on top of them. And what they currently do is they provide you with products that make it very easy to kind of move from one protocol to the next and kind of refinance your loan from one to the other lending protocol, for example. But what will soon happen, or what is already happening, is that these products that enable users to manually do these tasks themselves, they will turn into services that are automatically done on behalf of the users, and the users don't have to do it themselves anymore. And these examples range from automated interest rate refinancing to automatically always get me the best yield, which, for example, Yearn Finance is famous for, or protect my CDP from getting liquidated on Maker, or stuff like that. But the current process to actually build these automated dApps or automated services is actually very cumbersome. These developer teams, they have to basically write and deploy their own smart contracts, which kind of coordinate who can actually call these functions. They have to, in these smart contracts, define what the incentive mechanisms is for them to actually call it. So they have to kind of like create a business model within it. Then they have to audit and test all of these thoroughly, which of course is costly. Then they have to run, develop, run, and deploy their own bot infrastructure, because at the beginning, no one will run these bots, right? So they have to run it themselves. And then they actually have to make it run reliably, which is kind of like the hardest part. So even if you have adversarial environments like gas price spikes or network congestions, these transactions should always get through, especially if we talk about liquidations or important kind of transactions like that. And what the kind of problem here is that all of these applications, they constantly reinvent the wheel. And normally what will happen is that at the beginning, at least, these bots that they kind of develop themselves and run themselves or convince anyone else to run them, it's very centralized. And if one party goes down, sometimes the whole kind of like these transactions don't get executed anymore, and the whole product kind of stands still, the whole protocol stands still. And so you end up with centralized bot infrastructure run by these teams, and these teams will have to take all the burden of actually maintaining their bots. Then it's very time and resource intensive actually to develop and maintain all of that. If something is down, you need a guy who basically wakes up at 2 a.m. and sees what happens. And it's a very inefficient coordination mechanism that normally these protocols use. As the first bot who will kind of execute a certain transaction, he will win, and he will get the reward, which will like lead to gas price auctions where people will just compete with higher gas prices, and most of the value that is actually created in this function call goes to miners. And another problem is that sometimes these, even like vetted systems like the Maker one, is not 100% reliable. For example, it failed during the Corona crash of March 2020. And yeah, so this is basically what Gelato aims to solve. What we kind of build and provide developers is an on-chain bot as a service API. So you have a product, let's say you enable users to refinance their borrowing position from Compound to Maker. And normally they would have to kind of monitor these interest rates themselves and click the button to do themselves. With Gelato, you can just like, without writing much code, automate that process on behalf of your users, without running any of the underlying infrastructure. Bot operators that work together with us, they do it. And you have no single point of failure with that. It's highly reliable. For example, we also run bots, and we kind of make sure that they're always up, they always execute no matter what. So we really value reliability over everything. And then there's minimized value extraction of these transactions. So rather than kind of like getting 5% of the CDP that we transfer, we only take the gas that was actually consumed. So the cost, we only cover the executor's cost plus a small kind of like incentive margin on top. So like the value extracted is minimized. Then it's supposed to be easy to integrate. We're working on that part, but it saves you like a lot of development time. And of course, like we are never in control of anyone's funds, or the bots are never in control of anyone's funds. And yeah, this is kind of how it looks like when you want to build a dApp with Gelato versus without. And we see Gelato as kind of like this core infrastructure piece that developers can plug into, similar to Chainlink oracles, similar to the graph for event querying, and it just saves you a lot of time, basically. Then we have a couple of live use cases already live with Gelato. For example, we automate withdrawals of funds on the Gnosis protocol, so you don't have to kind of manually wait until your order is being matched and then to kind of request a withdrawal, then withdrawal. You can kind of automate the process. Then with Gelato, someone builds limit and stop loss orders on Uniswap, which we will check out afterwards. Then a dollar cost averaging application that uses Kyber. Then HAL is a nice app that basically allows you to automatically mint gas tokens when the gas price is low and then use them when they're high. And then basically for liquidity providers on Omen, for example, we're working on an automated liquidity withdrawal before kind of the prediction market resolves. So these are kind of like small use cases, and they're more on the making. And I think what might be interesting is kind of like to see one of them. And if you click here, basically you will get on this website, which actually someone that completed, that joined the Chainlink hackathon recently created with Gelato over like a very brief period of time. And basically what it allows you to do is it allows you to place stop orders on Uniswap. So we basically have to click here. And so I already created kind of like my smart contract wallet here. And what you see here is, it's a very basic example, is the current ETH to USD price is $414. And what we can say is, all right, we want to kind of limit our downside. So we want to place a stop loss order on Uniswap, which is an AMM, which doesn't support these features normally, right? But here you can just say, hey, if the price of ETH is actually $400, I want to sell all of my Ether for DAI to kind of be protected if we experience another down run, right? And then you just basically click submit, excuse me, and you have to confirm. And it actually uses dApp's proxy contracts in the background, which is cool. And yeah, then a process gets mines, and then if the price actually hits $400, the order, and what happens now is there is a transaction being sent on Ethereum. Then the bots that work on the Gelato network, they query that, they see that now there's a task, they get that task, and they will constantly monitor the price on Uniswap, and if the price on Uniswap is there, they will execute. Yeah, so without kind of going into the details here, let me just give you a small peek into the future. We are working also on cross-chain automation. So basically, you have Ethereum as a layer 1, you have several layer 2s or other networks, and you will constantly have to deposit funds here, then wait until they are credited here, and then move them around here, and then move them back again. And we see Gelato as kind of like this middleware, which kind of automates the transactions across these networks and kind of improves the UX for users quite significantly. Yeah, and so if you're interested in working with Gelato, or if you have the need for this kind of infrastructure that we provide, feel free to reach out to us. Here are our credentials, and also we are hiring. So if you're a developer watching this, definitely reach out. Solidity developers, backend developers are in need. So yeah, thanks a lot for the time. I hope you have a great remainder of this conference. And yeah, feel free to reach out to us. See ya.